Jeff Osborn with Caldwell Banker Real Estate. I am a real estate agent and I am here to teach you the successful keys of buying a home. I get these questions asked a lot and I want to go over some of the most important questions and the ones that I get asked to help you buy a home of your dreams. First, what we're going to go over is picking the right lender. This is a crucial step. Without the right lender, you're not going to be able to get the financing that you need. Without the right lender, you're going to get 80% through the process, and then the lender realizes they cannot give you the loan that they've promised or given you a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter for, and you're going to have to back out. In that situation, whatever escrow that you have, you might lose, and whatever inspection costs that you've incurred, you might lose as well. So picking the right lender is a very important key in purchasing the home, and I recommend that being the first one. Moving on, finding the right type of loan for you. First, we're going to talk about a FHA loan. That is always misconcepted because people think that this is a first-time homebuyer's loan, but it's really not. This is a government-insured loan that lenders can use, so if the buyer defaults and forecloses on their loan, the lender's still going to get paid for it. This loan requires at least 3.5% down. The max that this loan can be, depending the location, is between $270,000 to $450,000. I might be off a little bit there, but between up to 270, and depending the location, it could be up to 450. Anything under that. And then the credit score required for this is normally 580, 600, and above. The next one that we're going to talk about is a conventional loan. A conventional loan is a loan that can buy a house that an FHA loan can't. A little tip, an FHA loan traditionally, I might be wrong, but normally this is what it requires. It requires a refrigerator and an oven. You can't have a hole in the roof and it leaking, pretty much a move-in house. A conventional loan, you can buy a property, an investment property that needs some work, and you can put the work in it, and they still qualify you for the loan. And they will trust you in loaning you the money for it. FHA, they want the house to be move-in ready, where you don't have to repair it to move into it because it's a government-insured loan. Now, a conventional loan, it's starting at 3%. It could be 5%. Traditionally, people do it and they use 20% because 20% you don't have to have PMI, which is mortgage insurance. Now, the credit score for this one is still starting at 580 to 600, depending what lender you pick. And the max loan amount for a conventional loan is $417,000. So a lender is going to look at your information and pick the best one for you. The third loan I want to talk about is a VA loan, one of my favorites. A VA loan doesn't require any money down. The money down is going to go towards your loan amount. That's your down payment. I like to think of it as your skin in the game. That's your commitment to the lender that you're going to pay them back, and you're going to put whatever their required amount is down, and it's going to go off the amount of the loan. With the VA loan, it's a little different. The credit score might be a little bit higher, but you can buy a house up to $1 million with a credit score around 620 or 620, maybe 620. And then if you have a credit score 700 or higher, keep in mind I'm not a lender, so I don't know the exact number, you could buy a house for $1.5 million, which that's pretty good. These loans top out at $417,000. With the VA loan, you can buy $1 million property. I think that's pretty cool. And then the seller contribution, depending a little bit of the loan, can be between 3 to 6%. That means that can go towards your closing costs, and we'll get to closing costs here. The next one I want to talk about is USDA. USDA has something in common with VA. It also doesn't require any money down, and the USDA loan does have closing costs this loan is primarily used for agriculture. The difference between this loan and all of these other loans is this loan is only for properties that are zoned to be around agriculture, for agriculture. Not every property can qualify for USD loan. Majority of the properties, I want to say 90%, 85% can qualify for either of these loans. The lender, going back to picking the right one, is going to figure out what the best one for you is. Right now, the lender that I work with, she works for Loan Depot. Her name is Jen. They have a program which is only requiring 1%. So instead of it being 3.5% or 3.5% or 20%, it's very similar where it's 1%. It's only 1% down, and you're still going to get a great interest rate. The credit score is around 620 or more. It gets you in the house with less money down. Again, the down payment is the amount that the lender requires, and it goes off the total amount of the loan. So let's say we pick the loan that you want, or you're one of first-time home buyer loan, first-time home buyer program. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. The misconception with this home buyer program is that you get $10,000 or $15,000 for free that you could just spend towards your down payment or towards your closing costs. The truth of it is, they do give you a grant, they do give you money, but you have to pay it back. And that can go towards your down payment, but you're still going to have to be required to put some type of money down. The also requirement is that you need to take a class, and with this, with some of these programs, not all of them, they give you a higher interest rate with the loan. So you might be able to get a 3.9 for an FHA with one of the first-time home buyer programs, which is designed for your area. So depending what area, that's going to depend on what home program. This has a higher interest rate. So let's say you did get $10,000 or $15,000 up front, you might be paying that back 5 to 10 times over the 30-year course of the loan. Just something to think about. And if you do need the program, great. If you don't need the program, you might be able to get gifted for closing costs towards that. And we'll get to that where you can gift money for closing costs. Okay, so moving on, we got a lender, we got the right loan, we got the pre-qualification letter, we found the property, I did an amazing job locating it, we negotiated a great price, and now it's time to put an escrow down. Escrow is traditionally 1% of the purchase price. Depending how bad you want the house, I would recommend more, but it's traditionally 1%. The reason why we want to give an escrow is we want to show the seller that we're serious, that we want to buy the house, and if there's other buyers bidding on it, we want to show them we'll put down 5%, we'll put down 3%, and so on. And you can put money down at the beginning, and after the inspection period, I can get in a little bit more, message me for details, but that can be done. The next step is we're under contract. We're at the first 10 days to 15 days, we have an inspection period. This inspection period is for the buyer to get a home inspection, win litigation, termite bond. What I like to do for my clients is make sure that they have the homeowner's insurance figured out, whatever the HOA fee is, and making sure that there's no past due amount. Also, make sure that doesn't need flood insurance. Pretty much tie in that mortgage payment so we know exactly how much that mortgage payment is. And also, with the inspection period, you can cancel if something happens, if you're not able to negotiate repairs, if there is too much repairs and they don't want to come down on the price, you can cancel and get your escrow back, no questions asked. If you go after the inspection period, that's when it becomes kind of tricky. Moving on, the next step is getting the appraisal ordered. The lender gets the appraisal ordered, and the appraisal is the amount of the house. So if the appraisal comes back on a $100,000 house, and the appraisal comes back at $90,000, that's a $10,000 difference. I'm just using quick numbers here. With an FHA or VA loan, they're only going to lend you the amount that the appraisal comes back on, as well as a conventional. It's up to you to give more or renegotiate the price. So just because the appraisal comes back lower than the contract price doesn't mean that you have to pay for it. It's negotiable. Normally the buyer will come down, but if you feel that the appraiser was off and it's worth more and it's clear, then the buyer can pay more. Moving on, let's say the appraisal came back right on target. Now we're going to go to closing, and the closing cost is a big important part. What closing cost is, it is the amount that the lender requires down, which if it's VA or USDA, that's zero. But for an example, we're going to talk about FHA loan. The amount that requires you to bring to the closing. So if it's 3.5%, that's going to be part of your closing cost. Going back up to the escrow, let's say we put 1% down. So they already have $1,000 if it's a $100,000 property. The escrow was 1% of the $100,000. Our down payment for the lender that's required is 3.5%, which is $3,500. We've already put $1,000 down, so the title company already has $1,000. So that's going towards your closing costs. The rest of your closing cost is the lender fees, taxes, and title costs. That's normally up to 3%. So I'm going to repeat that. Your total closing cost is the amount that the lender requires down, and your taxes, doc stamps, lender fees, mortgage insurance, etc. That's normally up to 3%. So your down payment is 3.5%, but up to 3% just to be safe. We got 6.5%. If a good real estate agent like myself is unable to negotiate the 3% on the contract, so the seller pays it, for this example, we're just going to say it's 6.5%. So going to closing, you're looking at around 6.5%, which is around $6,500 for a $100,000 purchase, just to make that easy. So now that we've gotten that figured out, and we get this figured out when we negotiate the contract and sign the contract, that's even before escrow, before inspection period, we will know if that's getting paid for or not, which I can go over in person more. Moving on to closing on time. The reason why I wrote closing on time is I've been in a lot of transactions where it doesn't close on time. It's very stressful for both sides. For the real estate agent, my job is to make sure all the details are done, everybody follows the requirements that they're supposed to follow, do all the duties that they're supposed to do. Sometimes that doesn't happen and it has to be extended. That's where it comes back to making sure you pick a good lender. 90% of the time it's due to a lender that you have to get an extension on the closing date. With the right lender, the one I recommend, her name is Jen, we have yet to have that issue. So closing on time is very important. Everything is based off of that closing date. But the point I'm trying to make here is, in order to close on time, one, you have to have a good lender, an amazing lender, and a good real estate agent, and a real estate agent and a lender that have a good relationship that works together to make sure your end result is seamless, easy, as stress-free as possible, and you get the home of your dreams. So thank you for listening to Successful Keys to Buying a Home. Next time, tune in to Successful Keys and Selling a Home, where I'll go over more details of that. Thank you. Have a good day.